Hello and welcome to the Two Man Booth, your weekly scheduled podcast on the crazy world of professional wrestling. With me, Jonathan.
And me, Adam. And we'll start as we always do with the news. And I think the first thing we need to talk about this week is the biggest news of the week by far. The women are main eventing WrestleMania, the Raw Women's Championship, and as we will later find out during the show, the SmackDown's Women's Championship will be on the line at WrestleMania in a triple threat match. Becky, Ronda and Charlotte will headline that show.
Yeah, I don't think this is a surprise. I think we've all thought this was coming for months and months and months now. The only thing for me is that it doesn't quite feel as big as it should have because of the booking mistakes that they've made in the last few months with this angle. It really should have felt like a huge match, and it should have been Becky against Ronda. It really has been ruined, and I think it's one of those things where they've decided to do this so long ago that I think now they're kind of stuck into having to do it because everyone expected it. And I think they know that it's a very, very big PR moment. And if they don't do it, it may have a negative impact on them. So I think they're doing it now purely because they kind of have to some extent. I don't know what you think about that, though.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement. You know, when we first sort of saw this as a possibility, I was very excited. And I thought Becky and Ronda absolutely deserved it. Becky was the hottest star in the company, and Ronda's arguably the biggest star in the company. But we've got to a point where the booking of this feud has been so appallingly bad. I physically cannot put into words how bad this build has actually been, considering what they had to play with.
And how hot it was.
Exactly.
Literally a month and a half ago.
So it's great that the main eventing, but like you said, it doesn't feel as big as it should have.
Agreed.
So next up we have Joan Jett will be playing Ronda to the Ring at WrestleMania. That's kind of cool. She'll be playing live. Things don't tend to go well for WWE wrestlers when they are played to the ring live at WrestleMania.
No, there seems to be a few mistakes every now and then. But yeah, this is cool. It'd be cool for Ronda. I don't really think it's needed, but it's WrestleMania. It's all about the show and the pageantry, so I do understand it.
Yeah, I think it'll be a cool moment. And in sort of Lucha Underground news, Joey Ryan, Ivelisse, Cobra Moon and King Cuerno have all been released from their contracts with immediate effect following the filing of a class action lawsuit. What it means for the rest is obviously up in the air, but it means Joey's likely to sign with AEW in the near future.
I think this is sad for Lucha Underground fans, in that most of those people were fairly important parts of Lucha Underground, Cuerno especially, and Ivelisse. So for anyone that's a supporter of LU, this is quite sad, but we have talked on this podcast before about the fact that their contracts did not accurately reflect their ability and their star power within the world of wrestling. So in terms of on the workers' side of things, this is good for them because they can go and make more money now, and hopefully Ivelisse can find a way to AEW as well because they've got a very, very good women's division, and Ivelisse would be a great, great addition to that as well.
And I think as well, it would be one thing if we knew Lucha Underground was coming back, but it seems more likely that it's not coming back. And at the very least, we have no confirmation that it is coming back. It's really, in my opinion, not fair to keep those guys under contract where they can't go to places like AEW or WWE and they can only work sort of independent dates.
Yeah, that would be like me saying, you know, we have a contract that we can only record a podcast together, and then you get an opportunity to do another podcast, and I go, no, because you've agreed to do it with me, even though we've not recorded one in this world sort of for like 6 months. Like, it's the same thing, it's just not fair.
Yeah. So we have also got some sad news on the injury front, as Flip Gordon has re-injured the knee that has kept him out since January. He re-injured it at an over-the-top show in Ireland last Sunday and has been pulled from ROH's Road to G1 Supercard show coming this Sunday. Within ROH, there is a fear that he could not only miss the G1 Supercard show too, but also 4 to 6 months more on top, which is sad news.
Yeah, this is really sad because Flip had really gained some momentum for himself, not just in his work with the Elite, but also his feud with Bully Ray going into Final Battle last year. And it just feels like all that momentum's just going away because of these repetitive injuries that he keeps having. And it's a real shame for him because he's a really talented guy who I think will find his way to AEW at some point once he's sort of made his way in ROH, and it's kind of sad.
And we also have Mustafa Ali. is now just Ali
Yeah, he lost his first name too.
for reasons.
Yeah, just why? It doesn't even make marketing better. Like, his name was Ali already.
The one rumour I've heard, and I don't want to give any credence to it because it is just a rumour, is Vince doesn't think somebody with the first name Mustafa can get over with the American audience.
Well, that's a little bit of racism, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Like I say, it's just a rumour. You know, I'm not accusing anybody of anything. But
Muhammad Ali did. Muhammad Ali really found it hard, like, getting over with his name.
He changed it to Muhammad Ali as well.
Exactly.
And also, Cain Velasquez has signed with AAA and will be working Triple Mania.
I had not noticed this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just came totally out of left field. I believe when he was training for his last UFC fight, or he was building up towards his last UFC fight, he did some training down at the PC in Florida with sort of the NXT guys, and there was thoughts that maybe once his career was over, he'd go to WWE. But I did not see him going to AAA, and I certainly didn't see him making his debut at Triple Mania. It's just wild.
Of all of the places, like, seriously, AAA are like, really good, but of all of the places, really, to start AAA?
Just completely threw me for a loop, that one.
I mean, cool. I'll keep an eye on it, and I'll see exactly how that goes. Has he got an opponent yet, or is it just that he's going to be confirmed to appear?
He's been confirmed to appear. I have heard rumours it's something to do with Pentagon, but that could be totally out of kilter there.
So cool.
I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, well, interesting either way.
So we've also got another really, really sad bit of news in that Koji Kitao has passed away at the age of just 55. He was sort of a legend, and I know you're going to talk about a bit more about him.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people I've heard who've said he could have been so much more than he actually ended up being, but he did have a sort of reputation for being slightly difficult to work with, shall we say. But, you know, he was a big part of War with Tenryu, and he has a 100% record of WrestleMania, like I mentioned to you last night.
He does.
Yeah, him and Tenryu beat Demolition at WrestleMania 7, so sad to see him go.
Yeah, so like Kitao was a former sumo. He was a former sumo, and he'd made his name there, but with a little bit of I don't know the ins and outs, but he'd done something that had disgraced himself.
Didn't he get blackballed from sumo?
Yeah, and he got blackballed from sumo. So he ended up going and working UWFI, which I've talked about on this podcast before. It was like a wrestling company that promoted itself as real, and the fighting was made to look very real, very MMA-like, and he did pretty well in that company for a while, drew quite a bit of money, and then had a fight against the ace of that company, Nobuhiko Takada, and Takada wanted to win the fight in booking. Kitao did not want to lose the fight, so what Takada did is he deliberately shoot-kicked Kitao in the head and legitimately knocked him out, and that ended Kitao's running UWFI. But it was, by all accounts, a successful run during their more successful period, pretty much. But he had good runs everywhere else. He was an important part of War, and I saw this on Twitter, and I was kind of sad because I love UWFI. I think you either love or you hate that style of wrestling, but I love it, and it was just sad to see.
And with that, we will move on to Monday Night Raw. So we opened Monday Night Raw this week with a Beat the Clock challenge between the three main eventers for WrestleMania. Why? Who even knows?
Why, Delilah?
Yeah, I've long since given up trying to understand the storyline, to be honest. Ronda came out first. She tells the crowd they're welcome and then drops the mic. And then she picks it back up and says she'll tap both Becky and Charlotte out at the same time and then drop the mic again. And then she picked it up again and said she had no idea what a Beat the Clock challenge was and called it another gimmick. Come on, man. Like, gimmick? It's going far too far now, and it's just awful. The Riot Squad made their entrance, and then Becky came out and said Ronda made people yawn. She said no one cared about Ronda until the man came around. She saved her title run and is the reason they are main eventing Mania.
Kind of true.
She said the closing image of Mania will be her holding the title high with Rousey's skull beneath her foot. Charlotte then came out and said they are the main event because of what she has accomplished over the past 7 years.
This was fine. The Becky part of it was absolutely true, and Charlotte added her own bit to it, but I must be honest, as soon as I saw this was happening, my initial reaction was just why? Like, why?
Yeah.
There was no need for this. Mm-hmm. It was kind of like they had nothing, that they thought nothing up, and they just kind of went, oh, well, we'll just chuck a Beat the Clock challenge in or something like that.
But it just makes no sense. It's like when they do it for, say, a title shot, it makes sense. When they do it for maybe to determine the order in an elimination chamber or something like that, that would make sense.
It's triple threat match. What is it to figure out?
You can't get an advantage.
No,
there is
and
no
there's
way
nothing
that
to figure out.
you can't give Becky an advantage in that match now. So, like, what is the point in doing it?
I think it was filler. I genuinely think that's what they've done.
But it's the penultimate episode before WrestleMania.
Yeah, send the crowd home looking forward to the biggest show of the entire year.
With filler. So the first beat the clock challenge was Ronda versus Liv Morgan. Liv tried to run away. It worked for a while, but then Ronda caught her with an elbow and then the armbar for the win in 1 minute 25 seconds.
This happened?
Yeah. Beat the clock challenge number 2. Charlotte versus Ruby Riott. Charlotte worked with zero urgency considering she had less than 90 seconds to play with. Like, you know how much I'm a fan of Charlotte. But
Both are.
She had zero psychology here in the sense of she just didn't look like she had any urgency in her body whatsoever. It was like she was going out there and thinking, if I win this in half an hour, fine. No, you got 90 seconds. Look like you're actually trying to win.
Maybe Charlotte cared as little as we did.
Possibly. So she finally locked on the figure 8 right at the end, but then time expired. So next up we had Becky versus Sarah Logan, and Charlotte laid Becky out before the match, but Becky fought back after things got going. Sarah fought out of the disarm her and went for the Fairmaster, but Becky moved and jackknifed her for the win with 9 seconds left.
One thing I'm going to say about the Charlotte finish is, think about this from like just a logical, pure like salvation point of view. Ruby's in the figure 8. Now the match ends as soon as you get to the 1 minute 30. Why wouldn't you tap out? Like, Jilly, why wouldn't you tap out? Considering the match is going to end anyway in like a couple of seconds. You are in a submission hold that supposedly hurts. Like, what difference would it make? In theory, you should just tap out there and save yourself. I know, like, Ruby's making herself, like, keeping herself strong and stuff like that, and I do get that, but that was strange. On the Becky side of things, Becky's match was fine. The thing that was strange to me is that they were having them go against the Riot Squad, which, first off, didn't make the Riot Squad look very good, but secondly, I think Ruby's very clearly the best of the Riot Squad. So why was, like, it was like Charlotte had like the deliberately harder match and Becky and Ronda had the easier matches. It kind of didn't make a lot of sense to me.
I also think I mixed them up. I think Ronda went against Sarah Logan and Becky went against Liv Morgan. But I read it differently, but I'm not sure.
I think Ronda was Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, sorry about that, but let's face it, the matches meant nothing anyway. So, Becky and Ronda talked trash afterwards. This was totally pointless.
This happened. It added nothing to what was formerly the hottest feud in wrestling. Let's move on.
And next up, we had a handicap match between Finn Balor against Bobby Lashley and Jinder Mahal.
For reasons.
Yeah. The story is if Finn wins, he gets a shot at the IC title at Mania. Before the match, Leo cut a promo burying Gronk and said he's not medically cleared, so Mahal will be Lashley's partner. There was a ton of interference early, but when we got back from break, Balor fought back, hit a Tope Con Hello onto everyone, rolled Mahal back in and hit the coup de grace for the win. Lashley beat up the Sings and Mahal after the match. This was short. Finn won. Fine, I guess.
Fine, but pointless.
Yeah.
It's the best thing I could... Like, there was a lot on this show that was fine, but pointless.
Did you notice as well, like, nothing got time on this show? When you consider we're talking about stuff being filler,
3
nothing
hours.
got time on the show.
And you got 3 hours to
Every
film.
match was... I think at least every match, unless there was one that slipped through the cracks, pretty much every match was super short on this show.
And pointless.
Yeah.
There was so much pointless stuff on this show.
So Elias was shown in Times Square, speaking of pointless stuff. He did a goofy bit with another musician and acted like a jerk. Like, I usually love these Elias segments, but honestly this week they just did not work for me.
They're doing these things with Elias a little bit too much as well. I feel like it's getting a bit much now. It's like anything, if there's too much of a good thing, it eventually becomes a bit dull and a bit boring.
Quite possibly. I just think the comedy wasn't there like it usually is. It just didn't work for me.
Yeah, fair point.
And next up we had The Revival versus Aleister Black and Ricochet. I wrote, great, I assume The Revival lose again here. Spoiler alert there.
What happened?
Didn't Black and Ricochet beat The Revival in a singles match as well? Like, why isn't this a championship match? They've already beaten them in a singles match.
Yeah, no, this makes no sense.
I don't understand. Most of the match takes place during a break. When we came back, the Revival were in control. They did work a nice heat segment on Ricochet, but he eventually got the hot tag to Black, who ran wild on everyone, including hitting a Cape Rada onto both men. The Revival fought back, and Dawson spiked Black with a DDT. Ricochet tagged himself in, and Black hit Black Mass on both men, which was really cool. And then Ricochet hit a 630 on Dash for the win. Didn't think it was possible to hit Black Mass on two people at the same time. But Aleister Black's a special boy.
Yeah, I didn't think so either, but that was pretty amazing, I won't lie.
This was fun, but I feel like I've seen it 1,000 times now, and the Revival may have lost more since winning the titles than before, which I didn't think was actually possible. They may have a negative win percentage at this point.
I think they probably do, genuinely.
Like minus 5% wins.
How many times have they won since they won the titles? They won it...
I think the only times they've
Fastlane.
won is when they've retained the belts, and I think if the belt's been on the line twice since they won them. So maybe they've won 2 matches since they won the belts.
Possibly.
But every time it's not been a title match, they've lost. It's just poor bugging. So Drew McIntyre came out for a promo. I've just realised what segment this is. He talks about Joe again and says, surely Joe has put his family through enough. They've had to watch you fight for your life already. Do you want them to do that again at WrestleMania? Really?
Because remember, Drew McIntyre is the same as cancer.
This is beyond ridiculous.
It's just like
I
we
hate
say this.
everything about this.
We say this every week about how tasteless they are. And I don't want to keep going over and over and over because I feel like I say the same thing every week. But like, it is genuinely disgusting and offensive and horrible and brutal. And genuinely, if I was someone that had been through cancer or was going through cancer and I was watching Monday Night Raw, it would either make me genuinely upset or furious. And that's awful. Like, I imagine like a television show doing that. Like, how genuinely evil is that? And they do it all of the time. It's just offensive.
It's unnecessary. It sucks. But you know what? Above all else, if you want to take all the morality out of the situation, because, you know, morals in WWE are not exactly compatible anyway. But if you take all the morals out of the situation, comparing cancer to a match with Drew McIntyre, above all else, is just stupid. The two do not compare, so why would you even compare them? It just makes your show look idiotic. Even if you take all the moral stuff out of the equation, like, everything about this is stupid.
Yeah, totally agree. And it's a match that I actually was kind of looking forward to. I think it could be pretty decent. And
you know
it
what?
probably will be.
I'm still kind of looking forward to it, but the builds really hurt it.
Can you imagine how bad? I mean, we also about WWE's ability to make promo videos that are good. Like, they're going to have to try really hard to make this one because there's just so much offensive stuff.
Just play music over the top of Drew and Roman staring at each other or something, and then just repeat the brawl that comes at the end of the segment. Anyway, Roman came out and said he accepted Drew's challenge. He told Drew never to mention his wife and kids again and attacked Drew. He beat him up on the outside, but then tossed him back in and ended up getting low blowed. McIntyre hit a Claymore to end the segment. This sucked.
Yeah, it did. It sucked. Moving on swiftly.
So McIntyre was walking backstage when Ambrose bumped into him. He challenged McIntyre to a last man standing match. McIntyre accepted. Set up the main event.
Yep.
Sasha versus Natalya was next. Pretty sure this was exactly the same match and segment that we saw last week. Like,
yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Almost exactly the same.
Yep.
Nothing really happened. Then they traded with their submission finishes, and then Nia and Tamina turned up and attacked everyone. Post-match, Beth got the upper hand on Nia and Tamina and hit the glam slam on Tamina, which did get a nice reaction.
Yeah, Tamina kind of landed on her thighs, though. Did you notice?
Yeah.
Like, that looked painful.
It did not look good.
Like, when I saw that, I had to rewind it and watch it again because I did. In that position, it's Beth's fault, right, for not landing it correctly.
I thought it was Tamina's. Because it's your responsibility to kind of tuck your knees, because that's kind of how you're meant to take it, isn't it?
Yeah, because it looked like she kind of took it
so
right
that you're flat.
Yeah, I assume so.
I put that on Tamina, but you know what? I'm not a pro wrestler, so somebody out there might be able to tell us different. Either way, it didn't look good.
No.
They finally announced the Hart Foundation's induction into the Hall of Fame with a nice video package, and afterwards we saw Natalya in the ring, who was quite emotional, and she then pointed to the sky. It was a really touching moment.
It was, and you know what? I genuinely thought they'd already announced this.
I think
because
it's
we've known
about it.
Yeah, we've known about it for so long. I genuinely thought it had already been announced. So I was quite surprised when it popped up. I was like, oh, like, is this news? But like, cool moment.
Yeah. And Natalia was clearly very, very touched by it. And it was just nice to see something like that on a show where we've buried them for a lot of lack of taste, shall we say. This was a moment of genuine human emotion.
Do you think we may get Brett inducting along with Natalia?
I don't know how they're going to do it, but
I mean, Natalia should induct him.
Natalia
but I think
should be
Brett,
involved.
I think Brett being involved in some way would be really cool as well.
what Brett inducted himself, I can see Brett doing that.
Oh, of course he's. Oh, duh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Brett's not that arrogant. Oh well.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Moving on.
So, Rude interviewer talked to Kurt Angle. Kurt said he appreciated Samoa Joe coming to Raw to fight him. Corbin tipped up and said the fans cheer Angle because he should have retired 10 years ago, which made no sense. He said Angle will disgrace his career at Mania.
Baron just disgraces wrestling every time he gets in the ring most times.
I'm just going to read the next line verbatim. A moment of bliss is next. I'm gripped.
Sarcasm's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Even in me notes, I can't help myself. Like, that segment always sucks so bad I can't help myself.
Yeah. It is. We talked about this last night, though. We've discussed how SmackDown's side of the women's division is so weak at the moment. And then you've got Alexa doing these utterly rubbish segments that make no sense, that serve nothing for Alexa's character, that are actively getting her less and less over each time. Like, why is Alexa not on SmackDown? If you need people on that side of the fence, then send Alexa over to SmackDown and have her be the lead heel.
Yeah, Asuka versus Alexa at Mania, I would have had no problem with that.
Yeah, I'd like, Alexa is not Manami Toyota, but she's a more than serviceable act, and she's really good in her role.
And her character works great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Has been for a long time.
So, Sasha and Bayley run through their gripes with Natalia and Beth, Nia and Tamina, and the Iconics. Sasha said they'd fight them all at Mania. Jonathan's fallen asleep.
What?
Yeah. You should have fallen asleep during the thing we're going to talk about next.
I think I'd fallen asleep quite a while ago on Monday Night Raw. This was an awful, awful show.
There's worse to come. Alexa is in the ring rather than on the stage, which is different. Hopefully the quality of the segment will be different. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Bliss took credit for the women main eventing Mania. She threw to a video package of Braun versus the Saturday Night Live guys. She said she hopes to heel tonight. Braun came out. She asked what would happen if the Saturday Night Live guys got those hands. He wants to smash one of their faces. The Saturday Night Live guys are live via satellite. One of them is a douche and the other says he respects Braun, but Braun crossed the line when he attacked the first guy. I literally don't know their names, so it's one guy and the other guy.
Should we know? Could we get something like, could we like Saturday Night Live guy number 1 and Saturday Night that's hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday Night Live guy number 2. There's a lot of enunciation in that one. Make sure you leave that in.
Yeah, will do. They do some awful comedy, although the douche of the two is actually a pretty decent heel. He wants an autograph from Brock. Strowman says if they want to make things right, then they will enter the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. The heel says that's insane. The non-heel of the two accepts. Bliss made this official. This was painful. And I lost the will to live at least 3 times during this segment.
Yeah,
as you can probably tell from my awful notes that were really difficult to recap.
Yeah, this was dreadful. Braun is becoming less and less over as a result. Like, Braun has to win the Battle Royal, right? I know I said this a couple of weeks ago, but surely he has to.
I don't even know.
Just to someone save Braun, please.
Does it matter?
Yeah, kind of. Like, it's one of those things where, like, if Braun wins, he gains nothing. But if Braun loses, he will lose out.
Whatever.
0 cares.
Yeah. Elias is now in front of Madison Square Garden. They should have had a massive G1 Supercard banner up there. Someone put some change in Elias's cup and Elias shouted at him. Baron Corbin versus Apollo Crews. Corey berates everyone for being upset with Corbin being Angle's opponent. Vince was clearly in his ear. Baron wins with End of Days. Nothing else happened worth noting. Why did Baron lose to Crews last week? What was actually the point of him losing last week just to beat the guy this week?
50-50 booking.
50-50 booking, but they're not feuding. He's feuding with Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
So why are you doing 50-50 booking with somebody who's not in the feud?
Because Apollo's been friends with Kurt for all of about 3 weeks.
Oh, whatever. We're getting Becky and Charlotte and Ronda versus the Riot Squad in a 6-man tag next week. Oh, joy.
No.
Yep.
Oh, can someone give the Riot Squad a break? They're actually pretty good.
Just whatever.
That's how you're gonna.
That's how you're gonna build to the main event of WrestleMania next week. Is those three in a 6-man tag where they're on the same team?
I assume there's just gonna be a massive falling out. Or
Well,
Ronda will walk out. Or
did you see the segment later in this show? Well, keep that at one side. Put a pin in that. Seth Rollins came out for a promo. He talks about how different he and Brock are. He wants to be a champion who inspires people, unlike Brock. He said this is the most important match of his life, but he didn't realise how important it was to the fans until recently. It's important to the fans? I must have missed that bit.
To be fair, there's so many matches at WrestleMania, it's difficult to differentiate them.
It's difficult to care about any of them as well.
Yeah.
Just the build to this Mania has been so appallingly bad. What do you actually care about on this card? Batista Hunter, I'm kind of looking forward to.
Batista Hunter, definitely.
Anything else? I mean, the main event, I'm still excited for.
I care for the main event,
but not nearly as much as I should.
Yeah, not as much as I did, and it's just because I want Becky to win. If by some utterly moronic fluke they end up having Becky not win, I will. Do you remember which Mania was it where we literally walked out as soon as the main event finished because we were so angry? Which one was it?
Was that Roman's first coronation?
I think it was Roman's first coronation where we were just it wasn't. It was Roman winning the Rumble.
That was it, yeah.
Yeah, where we were just so angry we walked out straight away. That'll be my reaction if Becky does not win the main event. I will just walk straight out.
Yeah, fabulous. Heyman interrupted and said he guesses it's now a handicap match at Mania as Lesnar will face Seth and the entire WWE Universe. Trademark. He still thinks Rollins' chances of winning are 0. He called Seth pathetic and mocked him for needing the thoughts and prayers of the fans. He said he'll need them after Mania when Brock beats, conquers and victimizes him. He said Seth doesn't have a prayer of beating Lesnar and he wants Rollins to take the loss personally. Heyman went to leave, but Rollins chased him. Heyman turned into a snivelling wreck and backed off. Seth laughed and said he's not looking for thoughts and prayers. He's answering them. He dropped the mic on Heyman and left. Angle made his entrance and pointed at Heyman while the crowd chanted, "You suck." I kind of like this, but the build for this, most of the card, feels super flat.
It's inconsistent. So Heyman goes from saying how much he respects Rollins, thinks that Rollins is a great challenger for Brock, to then saying that he's not a great challenger for Brock and that Brock's going to kill him, but that, he's going to be a really tough opponent for Brock. And, does Heyman like Rollins or does he hate Rollins? Or it honestly, it genuinely makes no sense at this point. Because Heyman has gone from respecting Rollins to then not respecting Rollins, and it's literally week to week. I did like the bit where Heyman fell over and suddenly became a snivelling, no, I can help you. I did like that. But
Heyman's always been great at that type of stuff. It's a very Heyman thing to do.
Yes, but I just don't care. This is WrestleMania 2000 levels of bad at this point.
I think it might be worse,
Mania 16, honestly, it's horrendous.
I genuinely think this may be worse.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a lot clouded by how bad Mania 16 turned out to be.
And the main event, mainly.
Because the main event. The build was awful, and there was no reason for all the McMahons being involved. But I remember being quite excited that Foley was back, and that Rock was in the main event, and even as a kid, I was 100% convinced Rock was going over at Mania 16, which he should have done.
Still should
have. And I think sometimes, yes, the build was bad, but it gets an even worse rep because Rock doesn't win.
Yeah, true.
This Mania has not got anything like that. I've not got anything I'm as excited for as I was for that Fatal 4-Way main event.
I really am. I'm looking forward to Hunter and Batista. I'm sort of looking forward to the main event.
Do you not think that's sad though? That the one thing that first pops into our mind when we think of what we're most excited
from 2004
is Hunter versus Batista in 2019.
Yeah, which is 15. It's 15. A match 15 years old.
I love both guys, but when did they do that match at Mania? What was it? Mania 21.
So was that 2005?
Something like that.
Yeah.
2005, 2006. It was that era. It was the Mania where both Cena and Batista were crowned as the new
WrestleMania
aces.
goes Hollywood, Mania 21. Yeah.
So, it's now Mania 36?
Six. Yeah,
No,
because we don't have numbers
15.
anymore, because that makes it sound old.
15 years.
Because I always think the Super Bowl sounds really old and uncool because it's got so many numbers after it.
Yeah.
Takes away its prestige.
Anyway, we moved on to Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe. Joe cut a promo during his entrance and says he's not a sentimental person, but he has a special gift for Angle on his last night.
Samoa Joe is sentimental.
No, he's not sentimental.
I know. I'm just imagining the idea of Samoa Joe being sentimental.
He's not sentimental, but he has a special gift for Angle on his last night in Boston. He's going to put him to sleep one last time.
Oh, that's nice.
Joe headbutted Angle in a callback to their initial confrontation in TNA. I had relative high hopes for this match, but honestly, it wasn't great.
No, Angle almost spiked himself as well when he took a suplex.
Yeah. Joe went for a muscle buster, and Angle did sort of manage to execute the missile dropkick, which was kind of cool because I didn't think he could do that. Joe locked on the kick in a clutch, but Angle rolled back, and Joe didn't let go, so got pinned. This was not the best, and I hated seeing Joe lose again, but hey, I guess it was fine. I did have a few peaks of nostalgia. It was nice to see Joe and Angle in the ring together again.
Right. I'm a little bit... my opinion differs a little bit to you. So first off, it was really cool to see them in the ring together, but Angle was dreadful.
Oh, without doubt, I wasn't saying that.
Yeah, but the match was really poor, and I am genuinely infuriated that Joe lost. Sorry, Angle should not be beating Joe now. It should just not happen. I know that Angle's on his retirement tour, but if you're gonna book this match, there are ways to get out of it. There are ways to book your way out of it, and Angle does not need to win. I know it is retirement tour, but seriously, do you think if they told Kurt Angle, yeah, you're gonna do the job to Samoa Joe tonight, that Angle would go, no, I'm not doing that. Come on.
It would be one thing if they were building him up to a bigger opponent in a Mania.
But it's Baron Corbin.
Yeah, but
Joe's bigger than Corbin.
Come on.
In
he should be.
Spots. Yeah. But this just sucked. I really didn't like it. And Angle spiked himself doing one of the most I can take a suplex. I know how to take a suplex. Kurt Angle spiked himself on his head.
You just can't move anymore.
It was really
sad.
awful.
Yeah.
And why was Joe on Raw again?
Because Angle asked him to come over and fight him. Yeah,
I thought there was a brand split or something going on.
Well, who knows anymore?
Strange.
Hunter is out for a promo. He talks about the women main eventing in Mania and how they earned it. He pulled out an envelope, but it was a struggle, and he said he was doing the job for an envelope, which made me kind of laugh. Hunter's comedic timing is pretty damn good. The envelope contained a letter from Batista's lawyer saying he won't compete unless there is a stipulation added to their match. He said Batista is upset that Hunter used Evolution to keep the belt around his waist. Hunter mocked Batista for just figuring that out.
I loved that, yeah. I did like that.
Come on, wake up, Dave. He said he was just a deacon before he joined Evolution. He said Batista wanted Mania's date move to fit around his schedule. That is peak douche-tista.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's so cool.
I love that. He mocked Batista's "Give me what I want" line.
What I really, really want. So tell me what. Yeah, Spice
He went Spice Girls.
That's
unbelievable.
Awesome.
He said the letter says he needs to put his career on the line. He says Batista is just trying to find a way to quit, but Hunter won't let him this time. He says Batista believes Hunter is obsessed with him, but he couldn't care less and never has. The only thing he's obsessed with now is beating Batista up, which to me means he is obsessed with Batista.
Yes.
But whatever. He said if he can't beat a self-deluded douche like Batista, then he has no business being in the ring anyway, so agrees to put his career on the line. This was solid, not great, but pretty good, and in 2019, as we've said, the fact that I might be more excited for Batista Hunter than anything else on Mania is a damning indictment of the build of pretty much everything else.
It's genuinely sad, but this promo was really good. They've done a lot of good work to sort out the initial first really bad misstep on this feud, and I'm really looking forward to this. So this segment was fine.
Elias did more goofy stuff in New York and had his guitar case stolen. These bits have really not worked for me.
Nope, neither.
So what we put a pin in earlier. Apparently Becky, Charlotte and Ronda will have to work together next week because if any of them turn during the match, they are out of the Mania match. Brock will be here next week too. Nice of him to show
Hey,
up.
wow.
Yeah.
A genuine Brock sighting.
Mm-hmm.
A wild Brock Lesnar appeared.
So then we got onto our main event. Drew McIntyre versus Dean Ambrose. McIntyre dominated most of the match, using a kendo stick at times. Ambrose caught him with dirty deeds late, but McIntyre got up at 8. Ambrose got a table and rested in one of the corner turnbuckles, but as is the standard rule in wrestling, he brought the weapon in, so it must be used against him, and McIntyre indeed drove him through the table. Ambrose just beat the count, but ate a Claymore immediately, and that did it. I know a lot of people have buried this finish, but I kind of liked how Ambrose just managed to beat the count, but then Drew's finisher was actually enough to do just a little bit more damage that could then mean he was down for the count. People were like, how come a Claymore's finishing a last man standing match? But the dude had just gone through a table and literally just beat the count, and then McIntyre Claymore'd him immediately. That worked for me.
Damage. I mean, I know it's a kind of like a real fighting thing, but damage is very much a cumulative thing.
Exactly.
If you get repeatedly knocked out in a fight, and then someone hits you with a not really that hard punch, but you may go down as a result of the other punches that you've
already
taken.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I thought it was a good finish, but the rest of the match was dull.
Yeah, and I feel like I've seen this match several times already. Like, why? I've seen it before. Stop recycling matches.
I don't think I hate this show as much as you did. I didn't think it was an outright bad show, but for the penultimate Raw before Mania, it was disappointing. It had some real low moments, like the moment of Bliss segment, Drew McIntyre's promo, and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, I didn't find it bad. I just found it boring.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah,
with loads of short matches that largely meant nothing.
Yeah, it was inconsequential, meant nothing, and was kind of pointless.
This is the type of show I would have, like, maybe a decade ago, I'd have expected to have seen out of them between Survivor Series and Rumble.
Yeah, where nothing happens.
Yeah, November, December, after Survivor Series, somewhere around there, where they're not building anything.
Or like after the run at the Raw after Mania, when you like in that sort of, there's always a lull in the between like the Raw after Mania and then you get in the bank, and you get into Money in the Bank. Like there's just nothing happens.
It's just going to be different this year because I think Money in the Bank's in May. So is the lull then going to be between sort of Money in the Bank until they start building the SummerSlam in August?
Quite possibly.
So the penultimate episode of Monday Night Raw before Mania drew 2.59 million viewers, a 4% decrease on last week, and a mammoth 23% drop from last year's penultimate episode before Mania. Again, the drop-off in the third hour was large, but it maintained pretty well from hour 1 to 2. Hour 1 drew 2.70, hour 2 drew 2.67, and hour 3 drew 2.40. These are really bad numbers.
They are, especially for the penultimate Raw before Mania. That's bad.
Yeah, really bad. And with that, and with bad, we move on to SmackDown Live. We opened SmackDown this week with The New Day. Xavier channels his inner Lance Storm and asked if he could be serious for a moment. They talk about the ride they've been on together and thank the crowd. They've talked about the obstacles that they have been put in Kofi's way, and Xavier said the hardest part for them had been watching how poorly Kofi has been treated. They talk about quitting, but say before they go any further, they need Vince out here. They're not leaving until they get answers. Vince comes out, but before he can really speak, he is interrupted by Daniel Bryan. Bryan said Vince could replace the New Day in a heartbeat with 3 guys from NXT and call them, was it Fresh Morning, he called them?
Mm-hmm.
Good times. I love Daniel Bryan. Bryan said he said Kofi was a B-plus player, and Vince had been right in every assessment he'd made of Kofi. He told him not to listen to New Day or the crowd and trust his instincts. Xavier called Bryan a hypocrite for becoming everything he hated. Vince shut everyone down and mocked New Day for intimating they were going to quit when they don't have a quitting bone in their body. He said Kofi is a B-plus player, but he wondered if Big E and Xavier were a better than B-plus tag team. Vince went old man crazy and hopped around like a lunatic, making weird noises at this point. I don't know what was going on. He said if they can win a tag team gauntlet, then Kofi is going to WrestleMania. He said Kofi would get no more opportunities of his own and sent him to the back. Bryan looked bemused, as I felt. He looked. Yeah. He just.
I don't blame Bryan for being bemused. Yeah. This made no sense. You can get in if your friends get you in.
Yeah, the New Day never seemed to get to the meat of their promo. Like, it was a good start, but I felt like we never got to what they actually should have been saying.
Yeah.
And then Bryan was great, but Vince was all over the place. And the idea of Big E and Xavier running the gauntlet for Kofi is bonkers booking. Like, that is just horrendous.
Yeah, that's like someone like having like a sub in the Royal Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
That is literally the equivalent.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you've won, but like someone
baby
did
faces
it for you for a while.
Baby faces.
Baby
It'd be one thing if say Ted DiBiase was in the Rumble and he paid somebody to wrestle the first 60 minutes of the match for him. Something like that would have been cool. Probably against the rules of the match, but at least it's a heel.
Yeah.
This was a babyface doing it.
Yeah.
I couldn't get in, so you go and get me in the match. So Sarah Schreiber interviews Becky backstage. She talked about how she brought the fans and Ronnie was bringing the championship, but she had no idea what Charlotte actually brought to the table. Charlotte came out to ringside as her music interrupted Becky's backstage interview. Charlotte said she would show why she was so deserving. And when we returned from break, Asuka came out and they announced that this was a championship match. Oh, God.
Oh, it's happening.
But they worked a very good match here. Charlotte worked over Asuka's knee, but when she went for a spear, Asuka caught her with a cord breaker, but she couldn't get a pin due to the knee work. Asuka hit a nice German and followed up with a single leg dropkick for 2. Charlotte fought back and hit a big boot, but Asuka kicked out. She then went for her top rope moonsault, but Asuka caught her and then transitioned into the Asuka lock. But Charlotte flipped over for the pinfall attempt, causing Asuka to release because she's not as stupid as Joe. Charlotte continually tried to get Asuka out into the figure 8, but Asuka kept kicking her off, eventually kicking her into the middle turnbuckle. Asuka hit a roundhouse kick, but Charlotte kicked out. Asuka went up top, but Charlotte cut her off and hit an insane top row Spanish fly for a very near fall. Charlotte was frustrated and landed some grounded forearms before the loudest spot call, potentially, of all time, when she just screamed, "Triangle!" And funnily enough, Asuka then locked on a triangle. Charlotte picked her up though and hit a powerbomb. Charlotte tried for a figure 8 again. Asuka almost reversed into the Asuka lock, but Charlotte fought her off and locked on the figure 8 as Asuka tapped. Charlotte celebrated and then was making her way up the ramp when Kurt Angle's music hit. So that's back.
Yeah.
Charlotte looked unimpressed. This match was great, but
why?
Why?
Like, why?
I feel like why is the word of the week.
Yeah, why Delilah needs to be the
title of this episode.
This is like, or why Vince. This is just it. Like, it's actually made the title match at Mania more complicated in a stupid way, because now the room, have they confirmed that it's going to be that if whoever gets pinned loses the title effectively?
I don't think they've confirmed it yet, but
the Observer reported it.
Yeah, the Observer reported that.
That's just awful.
It's not winner takes all, even though that was supposedly what they're going to call it.
Winner might take all.
Winner could take all, depending on who they pin.
Winner might take all, but it depends. That's going to be the title of the match. Winner takes all, sort of.
So basically, if Ronda beats Becky, Ronda retains her title. If Charlotte beats Becky, she retains her title. If Becky beats either Ronda or Charlotte, she wins whichever one she pins as title. And then if Charlotte or Ronda pin each other, they go out as double champion, I think.
I think it's going to be that Becky's going to beat Ronda, and then Charlotte will still be SmackDown champion to keep SmackDown strong going forward.
I think there's a possibility that they've talked Ronda into doing one more show. Becky beats Charlotte, and then they do a proper unification at whatever the next show is.
Evolution would be at the ideal time to wait for that, though.
Supposedly they're not going to do another one, so...
Oh, well.
We'll see. Anyway, Sarah interviewed AJ backstage. He said he was honoured to be part of Angle's career, but he wouldn't take this match lightly and he would bring his best. He said Kurt laid the foundation, but this is the house that AJ Styles built. And with that, we went on to the match. This didn't go too long, which may not have been the worst thing after last night's match, but begs the question of why they even booked this match.
Because can you imagine Angle taking the Styles Clash now?
Angle went for the Olympic Slam, but AJ avoided it and locked on the calf killer. Angle teased tapping, but transitioned pretty nicely into the ankle lock. AJ managed to get out, but then Orton hit him with an RKO out of nowhere. The ref called for the DQ, and Angle rose before hitting a scary as hell Angle slam, where he seemed to lose Randy in midair. It was just, I don't know what happened, but at one point I think Randy was just on his own in the air. Angle had fallen to the mat, and Randy was still in midair. If it hadn't been scary, because I don't think Randy was totally in control of his own body, it would have been quite funny. Mm-hmm. Luckily, he wasn't hurt. AJ and Angle hugged. That was it.
Yeah.
Just, well, what was the point?
No
Like,
idea.
if Angle's that broken down that he can't have, like, a 5-10 minute TV match with AJ Styles,
just don't have
then
one.
don't book the match.
Yeah.
Just, why? Kayla interviewed Rey Mysterio and Dominic. Ray asked Dominic to answer the questions for reasons. He then said his family was his motivation to beat Joe at Mania. This was meh. I am quite looking forward to Ray versus Joe, though. That's probably one of the matches I'm most looking forward to. But
So
it's
am
just
I.
because I think they'll have a great match.
And Orton versus AJ.
The feud has been rubbish.
Yes,
where it's been
there's been a
basically
feud.
non-existent.
There's been a feud?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Ray pinned Joe at some point, didn't he, in a tag match?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
the
basically
feud.
the feud.
Yeah.
But the match will be great.
Yeah, it
because
will.
they're both awesome.
Like Orton AJ, I'm looking forward to as well.
I think they've built that quite well.
Yeah,
actually,
like I'm not like I don't have to see that match, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, like it'll probably be cool, and they've built it really well. So
it'll probably be a good
one
match
of the
as well.
few things that they have built well on that show, all 17,000 matches.
So Miz came out and, contrary to last week, cut a pretty average babyface promo. His delivery was good as usual, but the content was weak, and to be honest, Miz was kind of all over the place in terms of jumping around the story, not in terms of his delivery. Just he didn't seem to have a cohesive
Coherent
thought. Yeah. Long story short, he wants to beat Shane all over the MetLife. He wants a Falls Count Anywhere match. Security then came out and formed a line, followed by the dregs of the roster, Primo, Shelton Benjamin, and, sadly, Sanity, who formed a second line of defence. Shane then came up. He demanded Greg Hamilton announce him as the best in the world and told Miz the overused line of the security being there for Miz's benefit.
Mind you, I did praise that. Mind you, they literally used it the other week, but I did praise it.
That's what I mean.
Batista.
Like,
yeah.
You've
just used it.
You've just used it for another feud. That's on the same card.
Yeah.
Like, even if it had been a month apart, but it had been for a different show, I could kind of let it slide. But this was like 2-3 weeks ago,
yeah.
and it's 2 matches on the same show.
Agreed.
He said he watched what he did to The Miz at Fastlane over and over and over again, and every time it made him feel better than the last. The feeling when he grabbed Miz's dad was euphoric. He accepted the Falls Count Anywhere match. At least it's going to be gimmicky as hell. If ever
Shane's
a match
gonna hurt
needed to be
himself,
overbooked, it was this one. He's just sad he didn't do more to Miz's dad to punish him for his greatest mistake. Impregnating Miz's mother. Miz attacked security at this point and beat the hell out of them all. He then took out Shelton and threw Primo into the steel steps. Sanity then beat him down for a while, but eventually fought into the crowd, and Miz beat up all 3 members of Sanity. Yep.
There goes their credibility.
What credibility?
Yeah, Sanity, you're awesome. Like, come on.
I'm not digging this uber superhero babyface Miz. Sorry.
No,
This
I was.
sucked from start to finish.
I was digging Miz, and
I
now
thought
I'm
his
not.
promo last week was really good, but
Yeah.
like him going out there,
White meat.
even if he's going to be a babyface, he should not be beating 5 guys up on his own.
He also
he's
shouldn't
not a
be-
superhero.
He shouldn't. He's never been, and he shouldn't be white meat either.
He is the definitive regular guy babyface.
Yeah.
He is not the superhero. He is not the John Cena. He is the Miz, and he should be booked accordingly. And this segment was just awful.
Totally agree.
Just awful. The Iconics talk about all the news of the week, but say the biggest news is that they will be in a fatal 4-way for the women's tag titles at WrestleMania, and WrestleMania will finally be iconic.
Yep.
Gauntlet match number 1. New Day versus The Club. This went 30 seconds. They got rid of Gallows and hit up, down, down on Anderson for the win. Gee, you think Anderson and Gallows might be leaving?
I think if I was them, I think I would, and I'd be going to greener, more elite pastures.
More elite pastures, that's interesting.
For life.
Gauntlet match number 2 was New Day versus Nakamura and Rusev. Nakamura and Rusev dominated the majority of this match and isolated Woods as the locker room watched from backstage. Big E got the hot tag and hit a glut of suplexes. Nakamura and Rusev hit a double team suplex followed by the Kinshasa, but Woods broke it up. He went for another, but E moved. E posted Nakamura and tagged Woods in. The up, down, down got the win. This was fine.
Yeah, it was just fine. Yeah, I know we're gonna have a much bigger rant in about 3 minutes time.
Go on to match number 3, New Day versus The Bar. They isolated Big E and Cesaro hit an impressive giant swing followed by a sharpshooter. Big E gets a great hot tag to Xavier, who runs wild and the crowd loves it. Xavier hit a tope con hilo on both men and followed up with a top rope leg drop on Cesaro, but Sheamus broke it up. When we got back from break, somehow the heels were in control of Big E. The commentators do not explain what has occurred at all. Sheamus jumped at Big E, who caught him in a monstrous show of strength and powerbombed him. That was awesome. The bar went for the double team air raid crash, but Big E pulled Cesaro to the outside and Xavier rolled up Sheamus for the win. This was super fun. By far and away the best part of the gauntlet. But post-match, the bar beat down the New Day, and even Corey says they've gone too far. They double team powerbomb E through the table.
Yeah, I totally agree. This was by far the best match. It's just it was getting to the point where it was starting to feel a little bit kind of like what happened last week, and the odds were getting a bit ridiculous now.
With the post-match angle, yeah.
Yeah, it was getting a little bit too much, but we'll go on to what happens next.
Yeah. So gauntlet match number 4 was the New Day versus the Usos. The Usos came out as Xavier tended to Big E. The Usos looked ready at first, but then seemed to realise the severity of the situation and grabbed a mic. They said they fought wars with the New Day, and if there was one person who deserved to fight for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania, that was Kofi. He'd already earned their respect, the locker room's respect, and the fans' respect. They wished the New Day luck and forfeited the match. I like this. This was really well done. And then Daniel Bryan destroyed furniture backstage and says this is bullcrap, which is one of the funniest things I think I've ever heard.
It's also like the most PG way of swearing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like the Usos doing this. The only thing is, weren't they heels like a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, that bit didn't make sense.
But if this is like a face turn, then fine. I prefer the Usos as a face. I think
they work well as either. But
I think they're just Usos, aren't they? They're kind of like the Briscoes, where they're just kind of like they are what they are.
Yeah, they're their own alignment.
Yeah. But yeah, like because this felt like the kind of thing that the Usos would do. It did feel like that because like they'll it's like there's honor amongst thieves with them. That's kind of
and they respect the New Day for all the wars, like they said they've been through together.
Totally agree.
So gauntlet match number 5 was New Day versus Bryan and Rowan. This is the last match of the gauntlet. Bryan and Rowan destroyed the New Day early. Bryan went for the Busaiku knee, but E caught him with an Uranage, which was quite scary because he nearly lost him in midair. He hit the big ending, but Rowan broke it up. Bryan told Rowan to strip the announce desk, and Woods then hit a tornado DDT to Bryan on the outside, but got grabbed by Rowan, who went for the Iron Claw slam through the announce desk. But Woods slipped out and sent Rowan into the post. He then sent Rowan into the post again, and then lariated him over the announce desk. He then turned the table over on Rowan, and the countout gets the win. Kofi comes out, and New Day celebrate as the crowd chants for Kofi.
Right, so we're going to start our rant now?
Should I finish what happens the rest of the show first?
Go on, and then we'll start our rant.
Kayla interviews Vince and asks him if this means Kofi is going to WrestleMania. He confirms, but says the question is, can a B-plus player beat Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship? The locker room empties to celebrate with New Day. Byron joins them too. I will say one thing before we get into our rant. Byron, Corey and Tom, but particularly Byron, were absolutely fantastic through the latter stages of this.
True.
So, but, okay, here we go.
Here we go.
So, I am so glad this is how Kofi got his opportunity, by not being good enough on his own, and his friends have to do it for him. But they can't even beat Rowan properly, like, because WWE won't let anybody beat Rowan properly for unknown, inane reasons. So even that win is a count-out. It's a total cop-out. Man, this blew.
Yeah, I didn't
absolutely sucked.
Like, I guess they're going down the lines of, well, Kofi got in last week, effectively, but then he was screwed out of it.
That's not the story they told.
But they basically said this week, well, Kofi's now getting in because of what the other members of the New Day have done.
Which only just points to Vince's point last week that Kofi would be a Hall of Famer because of the New Day and the fact that he was riding on the coattails of younger men.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm glad Kofi's in this match. I really am. And I will be looking forward to this match, but it's going to be in spite of all the booking. Because why do they do this? They take something that's hot and they overbook the life out of it to the point where it just sucks. They almost try too hard.
We might have to make that into a verb, like whenever somebody overbooks something, we just go, nah.
They WWE'd it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They pulled a moniker.
Mm-hmm. This sucked.
Yeah,
actually, you know what? This whole show sucked.
Yeah, SmackDown, for the first time in as long as I can remember, SmackDown was dreadful.
Yeah, it was worse than Raw this week.
Which, again, is rare.
I've thought SmackDown has been consistently very good this year, but this was the exception that proved the rule because this was utterly horrendous.
And ratings?
Yeah. And naturally, SmackDown drew its best viewership since October for SmackDown 1000. And it's best for a normal show since the post-SummerSlam episode last year.
Wow.
They drew 2.39 million viewers, up 8% from last week's 2.21 million. This meant SmackDown retained 92% of Raw's audience this week, which is unusually high, shall we say. It was also only 7% down from the penultimate episode before Mania in 2019 compared to Raw's 23% drop.
I'm genuinely stunned because like Raw was boring, but this was just odd.
This was
show
actively bad.
Yeah. I like the eventual conclusions that we've come to. Like Kofi should be in that match, but it's just not really the way that I'd have done it. And I'm not exactly we've booked things in the past, but we don't have a job with any companies. I mean, if anyone would like to hire us, we're very much available. But I'll get that in there.
Yeah.
But like we could do a better job of this. So we need to do a booking episode at some point, don't we? Where we come up, we do like one of our rebooking series.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
And with that, I think we'll move on to NXT. It was another long episode of NXT this week, creeping towards the 70-minute mark. Hope this doesn't become a thing. I like me 58 minutes of awesome every week, and there's already too much wrestling to watch. So we opened with Adam Cole, baby. He talks about winning the Fatal 5-Way last week and says he has a million reasons for why he'll leave TakeOver with the NXT Championship. But first, he wants to bring Johnny Gargano out. Johnny obliges, but Full Sail responds with dueling chants. This goes on for a while until Cole heals on the crowd. Gargano plays up to them and the dueling chants continue. Gargano wants to know what Cole's million reasons that he'll win the title are. He wants them listed. And when Cole doesn't respond, Gargano says for the first time ever, Adam Cole is lost for words. He says Cole is now realising he is in the fight of his life at TakeOver. He says Cole will find out at the Barclays Centre why they call him Johnny TakeOver, as the crowd try to find the right cadence to chant that, but fail miserably. Cole mocks Johnny's win-loss record at TakeOver. He says Johnny participation cannot beat Adam Cole. Cole lists off his TakeOver accomplishments. Cole implies Gargano didn't earn his shot, and then Gargano responds by saying Cole's story started with WWE rolling out the red carpet for him, while Johnny's started at his 2015 tryout, and he was turned down. His big chance came in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic when he was thrown in a makeshift tag team with someone he barely knew. They were two indie guys fighting for their lives. They left with no contract, but a month later, they were invited back, and they were invited back, and they were invited back, over and over and over again. He was invited back because every time he showed up, he put his heart into the ring, and they chanted Johnny Wrestling. He doesn't fight by himself, he fights for the crowd, and they fight for him. He has earned everything he's got, and this place is his life. He wasn't handed a top spot like Cole, but all his battles have made him appreciate where he's going, and where he is going is the main event of TakeOver New York, where Johnny Wrestling will finally become NXT champion. Cole goes to leave as Gargano's music plays, but as he's heading up the ramp, he stops and mocks Gargano's story. He says he can fight and claw all he wants, but when they leave New York, Adam Cole will be NXT champion, and this is why. And then the rest of Undisputed Era appear behind. He says this match will not be definitive, but undisputed. This was segment of the week. Blew everything else out the water. Utterly fantastic promo from both guys.
Yeah, it was a bad week on the whole for WWE TV, apart from NXT, and this was by far segment of the week. Because they had to do a lot to sell this before Mania, because it really doesn't.
It's a last minute thing. Yeah,
there's not any backstory, and this did a lot to build it and give them a reason to dislike each other. And it's totally true in terms of they've both had two very different paths. Gargano's like clawed his way up, and obviously, Adam Cole went through the indie scene.
Yeah, but in terms of the NXT story,
he was positioned high up as soon as he came in with Undisputed Era.
Yeah,
and I think that story really, really works. Yeah. So yeah, segment of the week
might have been my favourite promo so far this year, actually. I can't think of anything that beats it. So we get shown what happened after NXT went off the air last week, when Ricochet and Aleister Black were getting a standing ovation and they got attacked by the Forgotten Sons as the crowd chanted, "We forgot you." And next up we had Vanessa Bourne and Aaliyah versus Lacey Lane and Kacy Catanzaro. Kacy does her cool ring post entrance. This was sloppy early, but Lacey does some nice lucha rope work. Really like nice lucha rope work. I didn't realise she had that in her. But the heels took control again. The horsewomen then appear, and Bourne and Aaliyah get out of dodge. Shayna and Co destroy Lacey and Kacy until Kacy fights out of the Karafuda clutch and takes out all 3 women. The crowd was going mental at this point. Like, she's going to be an absolute superstar down there.
Yeah, she is.
She's just going to be
fantastic.
So over. When she goes back to Shayna, though, she gets caught in the Karafuda clutch again and gets choked out this time. Shayna pauses with the title to end the segment. This worked for me.
Yeah, it did. Casey, yeah, you're right. Casey's going to be she's going to be a really big thing. She's a really good wrestler and she's got a really cool style to her.
Yeah, very athletic.
Character work needs to, get a bit of improvement, but that'll come with time and work.
And you know what? That's not a bad character to have while you're developing your character, in the sense of she's the bubbly little underdog girl, like, hard not to get behind.
Plucky babyface. Yeah. So anyway, move on to Shayna. Shayna's just Shayna. She's awesome.
She's awesome. Yeah.
She is like, we've talked about SmackDown being weak. I would have Shayna on SmackDown.
Shayna versus Asuka would have been awesome at Mania.
Hey, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
What's Asuka gonna do at Mania?
Yeah, is the female battle royal this year? I believe there is, isn't there? There's about 27 matches. I've lost track of them.
Yeah.
So next up we had Matt Riddle versus Conor Reeves. Conor would not be out of place in early to mid-90s WWF, and not in a Bret Hart kind of way, but more in like a Repo Man kind of way. They fought back and forth with counters galore until Riddle caught Reeves with the broad on to take control. Not long after, Velveteen Dream's music hit and Dream was pushed onto the stage on a sofa by 2 women. The distraction allowed Conor to take control and hit a Saito suplex for a very near fall. Riddle eventually fought back with a Pele kick to the back of Conor's head. He followed up with a ripcord bicycle knee and then laid in the elbows before locking on the Bromission for the victory. Dream interrupts the victory announcement and took over. He announced Matthew Riddle as the winner and toasted him. Riddle came up the ramp, took Dream's drink out of his hand, took a drink and then tossed it, much to the chagrin of one of the women who had pushed Dream onto the stage. She was very upset that Dream's drink had been thrown. I love that. Riddle takes the mic and says he'll see Dream in New York. Kyrie versus Bianca next week was announced, so
that should be good.
But I don't know why you're having 2 people who are in a fatal 4-way facing off
a week
before, or 3 days, I guess, before.
Unless
2 days before.
Unless an angle's coming out of it, I think that's the only reason why it's going to happen.
And then our main event was the Dusty Cup final. Aleister Black and Ricochet versus the Forgotten Sons. The crowd chant Aleister Black's name to the Addams Family theme tune, and that is the greatest thing in the history of pro wrestling. I'm sorry, it'll never be beaten. Cancel the sport now. We're done. We've peaked.
I love Full Sail.
We've just peaked. The heels keep trying to outdo the babyfaces, but keep falling short. Ricochet hit a Fosbury flop onto both guys on the outside. After this, the Forgotten Sons try to slow things down, and this becomes easier after Jackson Riker takes out Ricochet behind the ref's back. This allows the Sons to isolate Ricochet. After a long heat segment, Ricochet appeared to get to Black, but when Ricochet leaped, Blake pulled Black off the apron. Classic heel move. Back in, and for some reason, the Sons hit a catapult on Ricochet, which sent him directly to tag Black. I liked this match, but that spot made absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
Black ran wild and hit a double Cape Rada. He went for Black Mass, but it was broken up before he could hit it. He and Cutler battled back and forth until Cutler hit Welcome to Chicago for a near fall. Ricochet comes back in and helps Black, but nearly gets kicked by Black when Cutler moves. Ricochet takes out Cutler, but eats a lariat from Blake. Black then catches Blake with a springboard twisting Meteora. Ricochet went for a Phoenix Splash on Blake, but Blake moved. Ricochet went up top again, but had to fight Cutler off. This allowed Blake to hit a top rope Poison Rana, but Ricochet landed on his feet. Black tagged in. Ricochet hit a version of Go to Sleep, and Black hit a big boot for 2. Cutler sent Ricochet into the steel steps, and the Forgotten Sons hit a backstabber elbow drop combo on Black, but Ricochet broke it up at 2. They hit a powerbomb into the knees and then went for their finisher, but Black fought out and hit a bicycle knee and Black Mass on Cutler. Blake then hit an inverted Project Champa, but Black managed to get his foot on the ropes, and then Riker pushed it off, only to be caught doing so by the referee and ejected from ringside as a result. Blake went for it again, but Black fought out, tagged in Ricochet, and then caught Blake with Black Mass. Black immediately hit the Golden Triangle moonsault onto Cutler, and Ricochet hit the 630 for the win. The Dusty Cup and the tag title shot at TakeOver. I like this match.
So did I. It was way better than I was expecting as well. It was genuinely quite good. Best Forgotten Sons match I've ever seen, which does not say a lot, but certainly the best I've seen. And I'm really glad that Black and Ricochet are the ones that won, because I think that this is probably going to be their last appearance on a TakeOver. Mm-hmm. So I think it's going to be really cool to see them and, have them, drop the falls, I would assume.
To War Raiders, yeah.
Yeah, on their last night. And I'm sure they'll get a huge ovation after the match.
So post-match, Black and Ricochet celebrate for an extended period of time, putting over the importance of the Dusty Cup, and then War Raiders come out and the two stare down as the show goes off the air. It was a great show.
And that'll be a great match. It really will be a great match.
Should be a ton of fun. And with that, we will move on to 205 Live. We had a slightly different open this week as we saw highlights of Nice versus Alexander and Buddy turning on his training partner last week. And then we opened with Lucha House Party versus Gulak, Gallagher and Carrillo. In ring, we opened with the trios match, as I said. The Lucha House Party cut a promo before we started. They didn't say anything. This went long and was very story-heavy as opposed to action-heavy. It focused around Gulak chastising Carrillo for using high-flying moves and encouraging him to be more technical and map-based. Gulak and Gallagher cheated with relative frequency, but Carrillo did not join in. The story work was good, but this match did start to drag until the excellent last few minutes. Kalisto hit a basement Rana on Carrillo, sending him to the outside, and the babyfaces followed up with tandem dives onto the heels. Back in, they battled in the corner, and they hit a nice Tower of Doom spot with Carrillo and Gulak trying to suplex Kalisto. Commentary pointed out Gulak went to the top rope, which was interesting. As they were battling, Metalik went to the top, like on top of the post, and then Sunset Flip powerbombed over the top of the Tower of Doom. Immediately as they landed, Lince Dorado hit a beautiful shooting star press on Gulak. He hit a kick on Gallagher, but Gallagher then hit a headbutt. Metalik caught Gallagher with super kick. Carrillo hit a version of Trouble in Paradise on Metalik, but then he got caught with a handspring enziguri from Kalisto as all 6 men went down. Carrillo went to the top rope for his finisher, but Gulak screamed at him to get down and told him not to do it. Carrillo gets down and asks Gulak to let him do his job. Kalisto then runs up and hits Salida del Sol on Carrillo whilst kicking Gulak off the apron and into Gallagher at the same time. This picks up the win for Lucha House Party, and Gulak, Gallagher and Carrillo argue post-match. This got good towards the end and told a good story, but man, it dragged.
Yeah, it did drag.
Not great.
Was not what I'm used to either. Like, I'm used to 205 Live 6-mans or tag matches being absolutely brilliant.
And they had good workers in there.
Yeah, tons of good workers, but it was not great. I think it was just because it was so story heavy. I think that's why.
But if you're going to do that, you could have cut the middle part of the match out. It did not need to go like 15, 17 minutes, something like that. It didn't need to go that long.
The Carrillo, Gallagher and Gulak turn is clearly coming. I think we're like a couple of weeks away at the most, and that should be a good moment. We'll see how they book that. They need to be quite careful, but
it's interesting.
It was fine.
Yeah. Kayla interviewed Mike and Maria backstage. They brag about beating Tozawa, and Maria calls Mike better than the best. Drake Maverick turns up and says Tozawa wanted to put Mike's head through a windshield last week or something like that. Drake's Japanese isn't great. That was a funny line. He booked a rematch between Tozawa and Kanellis, and to counteract Maria, put the Brian Kendrick in Tozawa's corner. This is fine.
Yep, absolutely fine.
Buddy Murphy isn't at the show tonight. He's at the PC, and he says last week he didn't attack Tony to hurt him. It was to wake him up because he is 10 steps behind Murphy. Nice turns up and attacks Murphy. The two brawl while goons at the PC try to break them apart. This was a good segment that built well to the match, and I really, really liked the visual of Murphy cutting his promo in front of this window where you could see people walking behind, and cleverly they had quite a few people walk behind and go through a door, and then all of a sudden, who walks behind? Tony Nese, and you just see him stare a hole through the back of Murphy's head, and you know he's coming through that door, and you know he's going to beat the hell out of Murphy, and it was awesome, and I liked it a lot.
It was fantastic.
This was by far and away the best thing on the show.
Tony Nese.
I know, right?
Genuinely awesome.
So our main event was next. Arya Daivari versus Cedric Alexander. The winner of this match gets a future Cruiserweight title match. Before they can start, though, Orny Lawton comes out. Guess he's part of 205 Live permanently now, which is great news because Orny is awesome. He pulls up a seat at ringside but doesn't join commentary. Lawton played a factor early as Cedric was clearly distracted, allowing Daivari to sweep the leg while Cedric was on the apron and take control. Cedric went for the springboard lariat, but as usual got taken out and landed on top rope. He really needs to stop going for that. It costs him every time. It's like Flair going to the top. Never worked.
No, it never did.
Stop
He always
doing
got thrown off.
Yeah. Daivari hit the iconoclasm for a near fall. They fought a nice back and forth sequence as Arya hit a super kick, but Cedric fought back with an elbow and literally fell into the cover for two. I like that. Daivari went up top and hit a big time frog splash for a near fall, like big time, like almost Montez Ford level of height on that frog splash. Daivari tried to keep things going, but Cedric sent him to the outside and hit a big tope con hello, and in the stupidest reason for a feud to start since the CM Punk versus John Cena over a Diet Pepsi. Apparently the reason Orny doesn't like Cedric is because when he stood up, he knocked Lawton's jacket off the announce desk.
Evil,
okay. I don't know why New Japan came into this. Lawton shouts at Cedric as he gets back in, and Daivari rolls him up with the tights for the win. This was well worked, but had no heat from the crowd or otherwise, like in terms of the guys. And Daivari is beyond bland to me. Post-match, Lorcan attacked Alexander. He beat him down for a while, but Cedric fought back until the referees and agents appeared to separate them, including Scott Armstrong and Sanjay Dutt. Only pretended to back off, but then cheap-shotted Alexander before leaving as the show ended. I think we're in Bizarro Land, or Through the Looking Glass or something this week, because I wasn't a fan of this episode.
Nope.
I thought the promos were generally good, and I kind of liked the closing angle, but neither match did it for me. An off episode for 205 Live?
I can't believe 205 Live was only average this week. It wasn't awful, but it certainly wasn't good.
Yeah, it wasn't SmackDown. And
No.
it certainly wasn't even Raw. It was just for 205 Live. It was just a bit dull.
Yeah,
And the matches
and a bit boring.
didn't work.
And I
Yeah.
agree.
And with that, I think we'll move on to any other business. We will start with New Japan Cup results. As we both kind of expected, Okada beat Ishii and Sanada beat Tanahashi in the semi-finals, and then Okada beat Sanada in the final to win the New Japan Cup and earn the IWGP Heavyweight Championship match against Jay White at G1 Supercard.
Yeah, and that should be a really, really good match. I'm looking forward to that. After the match, Jay White came out and was vociferously booed by the Japanese crowd, and every time he tried to talk, they booed so loud he
It
couldn't
was
talk.
BJ Whitmer level of heat.
Yeah, every time he tried to talk, they booed him so that he couldn't talk. Gato was really good. He swore at the crowd. It was a really, really good segment after the final as well.
And if you haven't seen Okada Ishii in the semi-finals, and I liked Okada Sanada a lot, but if you've not seen Okada Ishii from the semi-finals, go out your way to watch it. One of the best matches of the year so far. And speaking of the G1 Supercard show, here is the full and almost totally confirmed lineup. So Jay White will put his IWGP Heavyweight Championship on the line against Kazuchika Okada.
The Rainmaker, Kazuchika
Sorry,
Okada.
the Rainmaker,
Come
Kazuchika Okada. The ROH World Championship will be on the line as Jay Lethal defends against Marty Scurll and Matt Taven in a triple threat ladder match. The Intercontinental Championship will be on the line as Tetsuya Naito defends against Kota Ibushi. The Rev Pro British Heavyweight Championship will be on the line as Zack Sabre Jr. defends against Hiroshi Tanahashi in what could be an absolute show stealer.
Because remember the last time they faced off, like Sabre twisted Tanahashi in all kinds of horrible
I'm pretty sure
submissions.
Tanahashi's still technically a pretzel. And then we've got the first of two title for title matches, as the IWGP Tag Team Championships and the ROH World Tag Team Championships will be on the line between the Guerrillas of Destiny, who are the IWGP Tag Team Champions, the ROH World Tag Team Champions PCO and Brody King, the Briscoes, and Evil and Sonata in a fatal four-way. They've added them guys to it as well.
Thank God, because I really hope...
I would love to see Evil and Sonata win both titles.
So would I. I just want anyone not named Guerrillas of Destiny to win that.
Yeah. So the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship will also be on the line as Taiji Ishimori defends against Dragon Lee and Bandito in a triple threat match, which could be awesome. Bully Ray in a New York City Street Fight Open Challenge. I'm assuming this was meant to be flipped, despite the naughty tease of it being Punk at the anniversary show. But it will be interesting to see who it will actually be now. I put my money on either it being Isom if it's an ROH guy, or, since he's not on the card, maybe Ishii.
That would be pretty good, actually. That would... that would be fun.
Yeah. Ishii's always fun.
Yeah.
So the Women of Honor World Championship will be on the line as Mayu Iwatani defends against Kelly Klein. We've also got Rush versus Dalton Castle. Title for title between the Never Openweight Champion Will Ospreay and the ROH World Television Champion Jeff Cobb. And on the pre-show, a 30-entrant Honor Rumble match with Jushin Thunder Liger as the only announced participant.
I think Ospreay wins that,
I think Cobb wins it.
Really?
Yeah, I really do. I think Cobb wins that, and I think either Evil and Sonata or the Guerrillas of Destiny win the win the tag title match. Because I think it'll be 1-1, and I can't see the Briscoes or Villain Enterprises winning the tag belts. So I do think it'll be Cobb. The New Japan have always been quite high on Cobb, so it would make sense.
That is true. That is very true.
So also at the G1 Supercard show on Sunday, PCO and Brody King will defend the titles they won at the anniversary show against the men they beat the Briscoes. So they may not be champions going into the match. Not that it matters that much anymore since all four teams are in anyway.
Yeah.
That show, though, G1 Supercard,
that's going to be
fantastic.
Great. Like that
Absolutely
card.
Fantastic.
That card's fantastic. Like Naito Ibushi could be match of the year at this point.
There's so many great matches on that show.
Yeah.
What a weekend it's going to be.
Oh, yeah.
And we will get on to that in a moment. But first, it's time for our final segment of the week. So let's run through it quickly. Our favourite Manias of all time. And I'm just going to say one that we would both say, the greatest WrestleMania of all time, WrestleMania X7. It is a phenomenal show, one of the best shows ever built, ever. Fantastic. So we'll get that out of the way and put it to one side because I think everybody
knows. It's the peak
knows.
of wrestling ever, yeah.
So I'm going to go WrestleMania 19.
Oh, I was going to say that. Totally agree, though.
Rock Austin 3.
Yeah.
You know, Eddie Angle.
Sean Jericho.
Sean Jericho. There's so many great things on that show.
Yeah, totally agree. Right, I'll go for WrestleMania, and this is a personal one, but WrestleMania 15. I really enjoyed WrestleMania 15. It had Austin Rock won in terms of the WrestleMania matches. It also had an uncomfortable, now looking back, but an uncomfortable Hell in a Cell match between Undertaker and Bossman.
Very uncomfortable.
When I was a kid and I first saw it, though, I was like, oh, that's so cool.
You're a weird person.
Yeah, but I knew it was fake, obviously, at that point. So.
Still weird, though.
It had X-Pac against Shane in one of my favourite feuds of all time for the European title. I just loved it. I really did. It was just it was at the point where they couldn't do much wrong as well.
I'm going to double you then and go for WrestleMania 30. Bryan's coronation, his opening match with Hunter, the whole show does not, I think, get the credit it deserves because it was a really good show top to bottom with very, very little bad on it. And just that image of Bryan climbing the mountain at the end of the night was just amazing. And you also had, obviously, the notoriety of the streak ending. As much as that match didn't work for me, I will never, ever forget the reaction of you could have actually dropped a pin in the ring and that would have been all you would have heard because nobody was making a noise apart from that.
Right, I'm going to go with another personal favourite, WrestleMania 20. The last in Madison Square Garden. We've talked about the main event, so I don't really want to go over that too much, but Shawn against Hunter against Benoit for the World Heavyweight Championship, and it was Benoit's coronation moment. You've got that amazing moment at the end of the show with Eddie Guerrero, and that's all I'll say about that because I've talked about that before. You've also got Eddie against Angle in what was a really good title match, the WWE title. You've got the return of Undertaker against Kane, which was a decent enough match. You've got the very interesting Goldberg-Brock Lesnar match. You've got Evolution against the Rock and Sock Connection.
That was super fun.
Yeah, in a 2 against 3 handicap match. You've got Christian against Jericho in what I remember being a pretty decent match.
Oh, Christian Jericho was awesome.
Yeah.
And the turn at the end with Trish.
The turn with Trish at the end.
Fantastic. I love that match. That might have been my favourite match on the show.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. And then obviously you've got Cena getting his first big Mania win against Big Show for the US title in the opener. It was I love Mania 20. It's very underrated too.
Yeah. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for a run of Manias. And we've got one more each. So I've said Mania 19, you said Mania 20. I'm going to say Mania 21. I love that show. It had Mysterio versus Eddie in the opener, which was great. At least I believe it was the opener. I think it was the opener.
Believe so.
We had the first ever Money in the Bank ladder match. You had Undertaker versus Orton in the first of what I consider the proper streak matches. A phenomenal Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels match, which absolutely stole the show. And then 2 huge moments because you had John Cena getting crowned WWE Champion by beating JBL in his crowning moment, and Batista beating Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship to be crowned for his moment. And what a show it was. Great moments at the end. Really felt like a new chapter in WWE, which some of us are not massively fond of, but a great, great show with some great matches.
Right, I'm going to go last one. I think you've hit the main ones that I like. I was going to say Mania 29, but I think that's largely just because of Punk Taker. When I actually look at the rest of that card, it sucks.
Yeah.
Then there's going to be another one that you're going to probably think is not that great, but I think I just like it because of when it was. WrestleMania X8. Which is not an all-time classic, I know.
It was a bit of a letdown, I thought, X8, but it was a letdown in what surrounds it in terms of X7 and then 19.
Yeah,
it's sandwiched between 2 all-time great manias.
This is mainly a mania of some great matches,
Rock
and great
versus
moments.
Hogan.
So Rock Hogan, which was not the main event, but to all intents and purposes, absolutely was. Yeah. You've got Hunter against Jericho for the Undisputed title. I like Jericho at this point. I've always liked Jericho, but I really liked him at this point.
That feud did fall a little bit flat, though.
It really did, and Jericho's talked about that on interviews with Inside the Ropes as well, about why it fell flat. You've got Taker against Flair, one of Flair's first...
Arn Anderson's spinebuster out of nowhere.
Flair's first really great match since he came back as well, because Flair was so low on confidence for some reason. Imagine being the greatest of all time at something and being low on confidence.
Yeah, I wonder if Leo Messi ever wakes up and is low on confidence.
I know. RVD against William Regal, some really, really, really good matches. It's just not a great overall Mania.
I think it probably gets a little bit more rubbish than it deserves, to be honest. I like Mania X8 as an overall card.
Plus the Titantron was really awesome. I always remember that.
Yeah. And with that does it for the final segment this week. So we're just going to talk a little bit about what you can expect from us over the next week.
Oh, we're busy.
Lots of shows coming. So obviously next Friday we will have the usual podcast, which will just wrap up the usual stuff from the week. Then on Sunday we will be releasing a podcast where we review the NXT TakeOver show and the Madison Square Garden show between ROH and New Japan. And then on the Tuesday, we will be releasing a podcast about the WrestleMania show itself. And then followed up by the usual Friday podcast at the end of the week. So, a lot going on.
A lot of content.
A lot of content to get through. So, it's going to be a fun... I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be a crazy week, but I can't wait.
TakeOver looks great. The Madison Square Garden show looks great.
Mania. I can't remember everything. Just go... Yeah, and Mania.
Mania is Mania, but then you've got the Raw after Mania,
and
the
there will
SmackDown
be some
after
cool
Mania.
Moments at Mania.
You know,
there always is.
And
like,
you know what, Mania's usually...
We've gone into some really rubbish-looking Manias, and we've come out going, you know what, overall, that was kind of fun.
I remember walking out a few years ago saying WrestleMania 31 was good, and I look back at the show and go, how did I think that was a good show?
Because it was a Mania of moments. It was a Mania of moments. Did you know as well, that was today?
Mm-hmm. Oh, was it?
It was today. Is it 4 years ago today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
4 or 5.
Something like that.
Do you remember, can I say, because before we sign off, that moment where we were both at the Southfield at the pub that we go and watch this at in the UK, and as that happened, we both started screaming at each other, Tyler Black, Tyler Black, Tyler Black, because we knew him from Ring of Honor being utter smarks.
Yeah.
As we were. We've changed a lot since then.
I couldn't physically stand because I was so excited. I just remember shaking when I heard the music. You're thinking of a different show, you know. The Tyler Black thing wasn't that.
Wasn't it?
It was the Rumble, the triple threat of the Rumble with Lesnar and Cena. That was when we were going nuts about that. Because I remember this moment vividly because, like I said, I couldn't stand. Seth's music hits and I went, oh my God, and started shaking, but I couldn't stand. And I don't know whether it was because I shouted so loud, but nobody around us seemed to notice that there was music playing. You just turned around to me and looked and was like, what? And then you heard it after I stopped screaming, and then we both went nuts.
It was when he'd won.
Oh, when he won.
We both were like, Tyler Black, Tyler Black.
I just couldn't stand, and that's all I remember is me legs failing me because excitement was too much. But with that, we look forward to a glut of podcasts over the next week or so. Is there anything you'd like to add before we get out of here, Jonathan?
No, I think I've just covered a lot of it. Looking forward, loads to come, and we'll see you.
Sorry, we're out of time. We'll see you next week on the Two Man Booth.